The intelligence community collects and searches communications it believes are related to targeted selectors. It can target any foreign person located abroad who is believed to possess foreign intelligence information. Intelligence agencies use a secret and broad definition for foreign intelligence information that has, in the past, included things like information about foreign affairs. With a definition that broad, the intelligence community could easily target groups of people like journalists. Oh no, the poor journalists reporting on foreign governments or entrepreneurs working to expand their businesses to new countries. I mean, maybe it's not worth fully mentioning now, but there is a reason why these programs seem to focus on foreign information.
Yes.
Because one of the ways that a program like PRISM would be held accountable is that it would be unconstitutional to look at the data of Americans living within America, because there would be some right against that. So instead, what you do is you get someone else from the UK using a similar program, measuring the data coming one way, and then you swap it around and have the Americans look at other people's data.
You're right there, music. First do something, then legalize it. Very Tony Blair.
Yeah.
Basically, the capability outran the law to such an extent that they had to have secret courts, which made secret judgments, which printed them blank warrants. And even then, they went around that.
But it's also, it's like a basic element of competent governance. You're not going to engage in some form of, military practice or security practice at the behest of a vote.
Yeah.
Or a referendum, or even have, a room full of MPs and representatives debate the policy. Because most of them aren't going to know how to enact this stuff or what it even means. And laterally, by the time you go through all the process of indecision, the thing itself would probably be useless.
I would say that the distinction I want to make here is that PRISM, as we know it, is downstream surveillance. And it makes up a tiny, tiny fraction of both the $800 million budget of US NSA surveillance at the time, and it also makes a tiny number of what they refer to as generated records. A generated record is just an individual piece of information.
Well, yeah, that's the Wikipedia articles that, PRISM was a program. No, PRISM was one of many programs.
Yes, and it was the junior partner in these programs, especially in terms of records generated. And as we'll see, some of them move into the billions of informational pieces.
Some of the chats get the idea we have to pass the bill to see what's in it.
It's that, but on steroids.
Yeah.
They have to pass the bill in secret via a secret court. You cannot see what's in it. You don't even know that the court exists.
But again, I think it makes perfect sense, though. You couldn't competently engage in information espionage in an accountable and democratic fashion, because it's not behavior that works through mutual recognition of principles or compromise even.
I will say that this is the most legally overseen part of it, and it is the least dodgy part of it. PRISM itself is one of the better elements in terms of the way the US looks of the Snowden revelations. I'll get into some details in a sec, but I want to thank electrospaces.net. Look at this. It's a bit Granddad's blog, but it's great. The information here is well presented.
I would trust the information from this website.
Yes, it's well presented. It's well done. And as we'll see, projects such as Windstop, Muscular, Bull Run, you'll learn what all of these mean. They dwarfed PRISM in terms of budget and information collected. The NSA, via the GCHQ, tapped the trunk cables of the internet, which both relayed the information between the data centers of people like Google, and also just carried an imprint of the entire internet that the UK was viewing moving through it.
Well, furthermore, many of these elements, the Incensor program, Muscular, Bull Run, these other things we're going to get into, are not or were ever sanctioned by some sort of FISA court.
No.
There is not even any judicial fingerprint on this stuff. This is entirely top level security people all working on their own little project, basically in a completely sort of sealed black box.
There is no law, as we will see, that governs the practices that took place here, because they are both extra legal and global in scale. This is beyond kind of the United States gathering information. Is the United States via their empire gathering information and doing so in a way that by design cannot have oversight
So, I mean,
because it crosses.
this is even going past the whole, uh, politics is like the brother to war or something
Yeah.
like that. It's like they've gone directly from policy and political instruments just fully into the remit of war and espionage. There is no other way to see this all through.
These are programs that have largely existed since the 1970s, and they're ramping up in terms of how they interact with the Patriot Act and 9/11. Started under Blair and Bush and continued under Obama and David Cameron. They are multi-party, they are multi-administration, they are multi-agency, they are multinational. They transcend borders, politics. They exist in a realm above politicians, the judiciary, the legal system. They interface directly with the elite class, and they give us a window into the fact that party politics within individual countries is completely illusory when compared to the sovereign power of the security state.
Yeah, I like Hydrosphere's point in the chat there, though. Any web dev that actually knows CSS should be fired immediately. This aesthetic is Kino.
It also loads really quickly. This is an extremely efficient website, which is probably how it's managed to stave off being buried by Google.
This comes, just over a year after the original Snowden-based revelations that Glenn Greenwald gave us in
about
The Guardian.
18 months this was collated, but all of this was drip-fed to people. This is a roundup rather than a revelation itself. But I want to get into the document here again, and I'll go through some slides that I prepared. I'm going to have to go through some slightly dense terminology, but I also want to go here. There's just one called Cloud Wars here, but this just goes into some of the other things. It talks about prison, but it also talks about just like warrantless wiretapping that FISA did.
Wasn't that the whole crux of the Obama administration's investigation of Trump in 2015?
Yes.
Is that it all started with numerous unwarranted phone taps.
It talks about
months at a time.
It talks about Tempora, which we're going to. It talks about Tau, which we'll talk about a little bit, which is basically the only like hacker man part of really.
Can we go back to the previous one quickly though? Just the intro in that one, I think, gave us some.
Yes, certainly.
No, I'm talking about the previous article we had up. Some of the sections in there I think might give some people a better idea of the scale of what we're talking about here.
You read this and then I'll go over some ancillary points.
So in Censor are how NSA and GCHQ are tapping internet cables. Recently disclosed documents show that the NSA's fourth largest cable tapping program, codenamed Incensor, pulls its data from just one single source, a submarine fiber optic cable linking Asia with Europe. That's only the fourth largest one, eh?
Yes. The two largest ones are just the American trunk cables, I believe.
But it goes to show that the amount of stuff they are scrubbing here to look through.
Well, we'll go through. Incensor on its own created 14 billion records a month.
The next line here. Yeah. Until now, it was only known that Incensor was a sub-program of WindStop, and that it collected some 14 billion pieces of internet data a month. The latest revelations now say that these data were collected with the help of British company Cable and Wireless, codename Gerontic, which is basically BT.
Yes.
British Telecommunications, now part of Vodafone, at a location in Cornwall in the UK codenamed Nigella.
No, it's Vodafone.